Hello friends and welcome once again to Sleep Well Historic. I'm your host and today we're embarking on an epic journey that will expose history's most absurd and biggest delusion. Horror myths. Let's get started. Part 1. Primitive ignorance and the first invention. The monster. 1.1. The blind birth of terror. Imagine you are living 80,000 years ago. You are in a cave. You don't have Einstein's brain, nor a Weather Channel app. All you have is a tough struggle for survival. Insecurity is everything in life. It's night. It's the jungle. The scariest thing you have is an unknown, vague sound. Maybe it's just the wind or a broken twig. But what does your primitive mind say? It's an invisible, malevolent monster that hunts. And, wow, humanity, you've created your first horror story, simply because you didn't want to go out and see what was really happening. This is the first rule of superstition. The unknown is always equal to evil. Look, for our ancestors, it was essential to understand everything. If someone suddenly fell ill, it wasn't a statistical failure. No, it was the work of a jealous spirit. If crops died, it wasn't poor soil or lack of rain. It was an angry ancestor who didn't get enough sacrifice. We created demons, we created ghosts, we created forest spirits. These were all ways to give shape to our own ignorance. Instead of diagnosing problems, we demonized them. How convenient. If you appreciate the depth and truth of this mega episode, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to ring the bell. Because here, we don't fear. We throw those false fears into the dustbin of history. Come on. Part 1.2. Fear's Community Bond. The funniest part is that these stories weren't just personal fears. They became social glue. When everyone fears the same invisible monster, they draw closer to each other. Shamans and priests emerged, who said, "Don't worry, I know where this ghost is. Just give me your best goat and I'll chase it away." Congratulations, humanity. You've converted fear into power. Do you see it? Even today when we scream at a horror movie, we are actually fulfilling the same primitive need. To be afraid of the unknown and to feel that we are not alone in it. Yes, they made that choice thousands of years ago. 1.3. Sharp conclusion. From the primitive age, we learned that the human mind is a factory of fiction. When it doesn't get facts, it creates monsters. Fear is not a necessity, it's a convenience, because being logical is hard work and being afraid is a comfortable habit. Part 2. Ancient Civilizations' Fear-Based Administration. 2.1. Pyramids, Rituals, and Controlled Fear. Moving on to the ancient civilizations, Egypt, Babylon, Greece. These were the civilizations that learned how to magnify fear, institutionalize it, and use it for power. Take the Egyptians. They made death into an epic. Why the pyramids? Because if you can convince the general public that all this is necessary to please the soul of your king, otherwise the underworld god will curse the crops, they will spend their entire lives building a giant triangular tomb. That is the institutionalization of fear. There was no real ghost. The real horror was the exploitation of millions of laborers in the name of superstition. They would tell you to fear the mummy's curse, but the real curse was the lack of education that kept them dependent on the
Greek and Roman myths, the fear of gods. Look at the Greek and Roman gods. They were powerful, but they were not loving. Zeus threw lightning in anger. Poseidon brought storms when annoyed. Why did this happen? Because it was a means of control. If a rich man exploited the poor and no justice was found, they would satisfy themselves by saying, "Don't worry, when he dies, Hades will surely punish him." That is, justice was removed from the present and pushed into an imaginary afterlife. Fear helped maintain the social order. It's a brilliant political strategy, isn't it? Instead of solving current problems, just scare people with an imaginary terrifying judge in the future. 2.3. Fear versus logic, the tragedy of Socrates. In this era, some wise people questioned things. Socrates spoke of logic and reason. And what did the creators of this ancient horror show do? They forced him to drink poison. Yes, they made that choice. Logic has always been the biggest monster for superstition. When man started thinking, the power of fear began to diminish. Therefore, the merchants of fear have always considered teachers and philosophers the greatest threat. 2.4. Sharp conclusion. Ancient history teaches us, fear was the first currency that power used to control people. Ghosts and demons were just invisible policemen ensuring you stayed in line and didn't ask questions.
Middle Ages Horror Incorporated. 3.1. The Empire of Darkness and Ignorance. The Middle Ages, horror's biggest blockbuster. At this time, darkness was truly profitable. As the logic of the Roman Empire crumbled, the virus of ignorance spread. The plague arrived, millions died. Scientific explanation? Absent. Religious explanation? God's wrath, or the devil's work. And there was only one way to fix it: amplify the fear. Congratulations, humanity, you turned a scientific disaster into a moral failure. 3.2. The Witch Trademark, Fear's Scapegoat. The Middle Ages gave birth to one of the most effective horror characters, the witch. Who were these witches? Often they were lonely, poor women who knew traditional medicine, or perhaps they simply didn't fit in well. But to release communal tension, you needed a scapegoat. And women, especially those who were educated or single, were excellent performers for this theatre of fear. The real horror here is that thousands of innocent people were burnt just to satisfy social fear and communal jealousy. They scared you that the devil was coming, while humans themselves remained the biggest devil. 3.3. The Inquisition, Government Horror Show. And then came the Inquisition, the most shameful example of making horror into government policy. It was a mechanism that outlawed logic. If you suggested the earth was the center instead of the sun, you could be the next victim. The fear of ghosts and spirits was used to crush political dissent. If someone spoke against the king or the church, they were declared to be under demonic influence. That is, the real ghost was no spirit. It was injustice, oppression, and ignorance. 3.4. The Vampire, the myth of financial exploitation. Even stories of vampires were linked to social problems. In the 17th and 18th century Eastern Europe, the fear of vampires was often associated with epidemics and diseases. When there were sudden deaths in a family and they didn't know the cause, they quickly concluded it's the living dead sucking our blood at night. Today we know it was caused by malnutrition and poor sanitation. But at that time, superstition forced them to fight a ghost instead of a disease. Sharp conclusion. The Middle Ages taught us that when superstition gains organized power, it becomes the biggest, most cruel horror story, and real people are its victims. Part 4. The Enlightenment's Anti-Ghost and the Revolution of Reason. 4.1. The Torch of Science. The darkness doesn't last forever. In the 17th century, the first rays of reason arrived. The Enlightenment began, and science declared, we will no longer guess, we will know. Newton showed that the laws of the heavens are based not on divine will, but on gravity. Louis Pasteur proved that diseases are not the work of the devil, but of microorganisms. This was a catastrophic time for horror myths. The ghost crisis. Now, ghosts had no dark corner to hide in. Scientists told them, all right, show us a sample. And of course, ghosts never presented themselves in a lab. The light-on effect. As we invented electricity and lit up cities, the moral value of darkness fell. Where did ghosts live? In dark corners.
but now they became unemployed. 4.2. The rise of materialism and the rejection of the supernatural. Philosophy also intervened. Materialism stated that everything in this world is physical, something we can see or measure. This philosophy rejected the supernatural as unproven and unscientific. This was science's greatest victory. It freed man from the slavery of fear and inspired him to think. 4.3. The escape of fear, refuge in imagination. But here comes the biggest irony. As reason killed ghosts in the real world, human imagination screamed, "No, I find this boring." Mary Shelley created Frankenstein. The Gothic novel rose. This was the time when horror stopped being a real threat and became entertainment. We no longer truly feared that a mummy would curse us. We just wanted a scary story for the thrill. Sharp conclusion. Science proved that there is no such thing as ghosts, but art immediately told us their stories are a lot of fun. The human mind chose truth, but the heart chose excitement. Part 5. The modern horror industry. Fear's market value. 5.1. Hollywood's business of fear. And now we come to the 21st century. We have space stations, smartphones, and all of history's knowledge at our fingertips. Are we free from superstition? Absolutely not. Because now, fear is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Hollywood and OTT platforms have recognized the market value of fear. They don't care about facts. They care about the box office. They know that a fake ghost film will make more money than a true documentary about a warming planet. Example, films like The Conjuring or Paranormal Activity show us how to make millions with low cost and high noise. They explicitly lead us into superstition, knowing that screaming in the dark is the easiest entertainment. 5.2. Social media's fake fear. Social media has democratized fear. Now everyone can run their own ghost hunting show. Fake footage, edited audio, and sensational claims, all done for likes and subscribes. Our choice. We live in a world where we can check any scientific topic on Wikipedia, yet we choose to believe a random person's fake YouTube video that a demon is in their bedroom. Yes, they made that choice. This is willful ignorance. The real horror is that we deliberately choose to shut down reason so that we can enjoy entertainment. 5.3. Present fears, not invisible but inevitable. Today we shouldn't fear the ghosts that pull our sheets at night. We must face the real fears affecting our world. 1. Political polarization, which is tearing our societies apart. 2. Climate crisis, which is threatening our existence. 3. Information overload, which is driving us away from the truth. Facing these real ghosts requires logic, science, and collective action. But what do? We watch an imaginary horror movie and say, at least that's not real. Sharp conclusion. In the modern age, there are no ghosts, only superstition. We shouldn't believe the horror films that scare you and lead you into superstition. We no longer fear ignorance, we fear the truth. Part 6. Final message and logical sleep. 6.1. Fear's dual benefit. So what have we learned from this historical dive? Horror myths do two things. Social control, the business of ghosts. They allow power to easily control people. 2. Personal escape, entertainment. They offer us an easy imaginary threat to avoid real difficult problems. The history of ghosts is not supernatural. It is completely human. It is the history of insecurity, ignorance, and exploitation. 6.2. The promise of Sleep Well Historic. This is the purpose of your channel, Sleep Well Historic, to teach you to sleep on fear. Next time someone tries to scare you, whether it's an old ghost story or a new horror movie, remember: 1. Question. Can it be measured? Can it be observed? Is there scientific evidence? 2. Laugh at your primitive fear. It's just your mind's way of avoiding hard work. 3. Turn on the light, both literally and figuratively. Logic always drives away the darkness. 6.3. Conclusion. So friends, this was the epic episode of Sleep Well Historic. We have exposed thousands of years of the business of fear. Now you know what ghosts and monsters are. They are just stories and we have control over stories. If you liked this logic-based epic and you listened to the whole hour, which is true bravery, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments which historical delusion you would like to hear a satire on next time. I'll see you again. Until then, be happy, be wise, and sleep well with Sleep Well Historic. Good night, and long live your logic.